telling you about MAC addresses earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the MAC address stands for Media Access Control. Every device that communicates with the internet has a MAC address, and it's written in hexadecimal notation. This right here, this picture that we're looking at, this is a wireless network card that you would find inside of a laptop to allow for you to get access to the Wi-Fi. You're like, how do you know? Because it says it right here, WLAN, Wireless Local Area Network. That's how I know. But anyways, this is the MAC address. This was given to this device by the manufacturer. Every device that touches the internet, whether it's your phone, your laptop, your smart TV, your smart thermostat, or whatever smart device you have in your house, they all have MAC address. A MAC address is like a social security number for a device. And they're all written in hexadecimal notation, which is what this is. What a switch does, they manage devices in the network. And one way they manage it is by keeping track of the MAC addresses for the devices that are in the network. That's one way they can do this. Even when you go to your home switch, your home router, if you open up the settings in there, you can actually restrict on your home router what devices can connect to your network based off of their MAC address. So you're like, what do you mean? Let's take my father. You go to my father's house, and if you want to connect your phone to my father's Wi-Fi in his house, my father needs to get your MAC address. And then he's going to go into his home router, his settings, and add your MAC address. So now when you come over and after you punch in the Wi-Fi password to get access to the network, it's going to also recognize your MAC address, because what it is, you can have the password to get access to his internet, but if your MAC address isn't on the list to get access to it, you're not going to be able to connect to his network.
That's what the router or whatever recognizes when you get somewhere and it automatically connects.
It depends on how it's set up. So like I say, these home routers that you guys got, these SOHO, they're called, like I say, SOHO routers. Remember, these are, we just call them a router by default, but this is actually a switch and a router combined into one device.
Okay.
So the switching component of what we call the home router in our house, that is what can determine stuff based off of MAC addresses. And like I say, you can go in there and set it up. Basically, you would enter the MAC address for whatever device that you're like, hey, this device is allowed on my network. Like, you can actually do this on your home router. And that'll make so let's just say you got your next door neighbor, because what it is with these home routers that everybody has, I guarantee you go driving through your neighborhood, I guarantee there's at least 10 people in and around your neighborhood right now who haven't changed the default username and password to their router. The default username is probably admin and the password is probably password. No fault of their own, because they probably don't know, or they're just not IT savvy. There's no fault. Most people aren't. But to somebody like me, that means, well, I can go in there and I can get free access to the internet. Wow, because I just use yours.
Yeah.
Or if I decide I want to be a pervert and look at illegal websites like child. This is one of the ways the FBI shows up at your house. I told the story. I used to live next door to a child molester back in the day. Didn't know it, obviously, but until the FBI showed up, it was like, holy shit. But anyways, what happened, FBI showed up, raided the spot, because he was in the house looking at, he was in the house abusing his stepson, but he was also looking at child. Well, what happens is your router is given an IP address from your cable company or whoever, your ISP, wherever you're paying internet from. That is physically linked to your home address. So if your router that the ISP gives you, your router, like I say, your home router is going to have two IP addresses that are essentially set up on it. We're getting a little deep here, but it's called a public IP. Where's that? A public IP address, private IP address. Remember on those slideshows that I showed you the other day, I said the default IP address of the router?
Yeah.
That's called the private IP address, right? On the opposite end of that router that was connected to the internet, that's called, I'm trying to find a picture. Here we go. Okay, so here's the router. It's kind of similar to that diagram I was showing you. All your little devices. I said your default gateway is right here. Well, this connection that connects to the internet has an IP address called a public IP address. This is set by your ISP. So if you're paying a cable company for cable internet, they set this right here because this is what is used to identify you out of all of their customers, and it's also linked to your physical home address. So what I'm saying is, so let's just say you're my next door neighbor looking at kitty, which is extremely illegal. Well, what happens is he's looking at the crazy stuff on his computer, and the ones and zeros are getting sent to the router, and then they go off to the internet, to the dark web is where he has to go look at these crazy websites. Well, when the crazy website sends him the videos and pictures back, they don't know exactly what device requested it. They're just sending it back to this public IP address of this router.
Okay.
And this public IP address is linked to his home address. Now, when you go visit these crazy websites, the FBI is all over your. Like, they got people sitting around waiting for somebody to go look at this crap. So when the moment you do,
They already got your address.
they got your address and they coming to kick the door. Now, here's the thing. Here's the tricky thing about this as it relates to the wireless router and why passwords is important. Let's just say you're at home chilling, but you got weak wireless encryption on your wireless router, or you didn't change your password, and you got some jack that lives in your neighborhood who's driving around looking for an access point to break into, and he discovers yours. He's like, oh, this person didn't change their password, or they don't have the strongest encryption. Let's just say this person parks outside of your house. This is actually called war chalking or war driving. And now they're getting access to your wireless internet. So let's just say this person's outside your house in their car looking at illegal websites.
Oh, okay.
Well, guess what? The FBI is going to show up at your house and accuse you.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, wait a second. I didn't do anything. Well, they don't know that because they're going to have to do their forensic investigation to figure it out. But initially, they're going to put the cuffs on you, and your face is going to be all over the damn television until, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because all they know is from this router that's connected to your house, a computer that has access to this network requested to look at one of these illegal websites.
I see.
Didn't come from anybody in your actual house, but somebody who was outside your house who was able to get access to your wireless network because you didn't have strong encryption or you didn't change the password. Well, as far as they know, they're a part of your network.
Yeah.
So that's why this stuff is important, because like I said, I live next door to a dude who was arrested for this crap, and he's in prison for the rest of his life. But what happened was the first time he got arrested, FBI came through. Like, I'm getting ready to go to work. I was in the Army at this time. Getting ready to go to work. Boom. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. 20 FBI cars sitting outside of my house. I was like, what the hell? Now, obviously they weren't for me, but I seen them coming and going out of my neighbor's house. Put them in handcuffs, just taking computers out. At this time, I'm in IT in the Army, and I used to work for the National Security Agency at this time. And so I was like, oh. But here's the crazy part. I seen him 2 days later come back home. And I was like, what? Yeah. So I was like, wait a second.
Did you know at the time why he was?
Well, that's what I'm leading up to. I was like, wait a second. They raided your house, arrested you for child, and 2 days later, you're back at home. Like, something ain't adding up here. Now, to my knowledge, I was the only IT person that lived on my street. I was like, there's only one way that this could have possibly happened that I can think of. Somebody was accessing child from his router because he didn't change his password. That's the only thing that made sense to me.
Yeah.
As to why he wasn't in prison right now. So anyways, life went back to normal for a couple months, even though I was still side-eyeing him like, okay. Yeah. One day I'm going to work. Boom. FBI is outside the house again. This time they arrest him, take all his crap. Anyways, fast forward, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 600 years. I guess they found evidence that he actually was doing this stuff.
Yeah, it was him. Okay.
Yeah. But the first time when they came, then I seen them a couple days later, my IT brain kicked in. I was like, this is the only way that I can think of this possibly happening. Somebody was accessing those sites who had access to it from his network because maybe he didn't have strong network security. Like that was the only thing that made sense to me.
Yeah.
Listen, IT, man, this is how they get you. You know, this is why they pay big bucks for this stuff. And, this is what they do. And we're just talking about some elementary stuff. But even the elementary stuff can have severe ramifications depending upon what's being done. It's like